Okay, let's keep going. So how does the temperature affect the enzyme's activity? The temperature, it will increase the temperature, it will increase the response until it denatures the protein. Let's look at the decreased temperature. If you decrease the temperature first, well, the molecule moves slower. So it will respond slower. And then when you to a certain extent, you can denature the protein as well. So each enzyme have their temperature range for it to function well. Okay, let's look at the second factor affect the enzyme's activity. The second factor is called pH. We have a specific lecture talk about pH. So first, what's pH? pH is a scale. pH is a scale. It tells you how acidic the solution is. So these scales go from 0 to 14. And we will have another lecture talk about specifically, okay, what does each pH number means. 7 means neutral, and when it's higher than 7 means it's basic. And when it's smaller than 7 means it's acidic. From 0 to 6.9 is acidic. And from 7.1 to 14, that's basic. And if number is smaller, it's more acidic. If number is bigger, it's more basic. So that's the pH. And you find every solution, you can give it the pH, you can measure its pH, and you find the pH scale. So if this pure water, pH is 7, so this is neutral solution. And if the number is smaller, it means more acidic. Like this Coke 2.5, they're actually very acidic. And when the pH change, well, it will destroy the protein, affect its 3D structure. And one possible result is denature the protein, and then it won't function because the protein been denatured. Enzyme is a protein. So the pH need to be correct. But in your body, your mouth, okay, pH is around 7. In your stomach, pH is 1 to 2. Stomach have stomach acid. It's very acidic. In your small intestines, especially the duodenum, small intestines can be divided into the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. So totally 7 meters long. And when you go to AP2, you will learn more. Duodenum is the beginning of the small intestines. It also have digestive function, not like jejunum and ileum. They are reabsorbing function only. So you have digestive enzymes in the duodenum as well. And duodenum environment is basic. It's basic. It's higher than 7. So the enzymes in your mouth and for it to function, like amylase, that's the enzyme in your saliva, digest carbohydrate. It need to work in a pH in a 7 environment. Compared with enzyme in your stomach, is designed to work in a very acidic environment, like pepsin. This enzyme digest protein because they're made of peptide bond. We'll talk about the bond later. So it need to function in a very acidic environment. Compared with the enzyme in your duodenum, like trypsin. Trypsin is the enzyme in the small intestines. You find each one of them have their pH range. They function normally. So each enzymes depends on their working environment. They have their preferred pH. And when you go off the pH range, their activity start to decrease, their reaction rate start to decrease. And when you go too much out of this range, their reaction rate can decrease to 0 because they've been denatured. So the second factor, pH, can affect its enzyme's function. So mainly two. First one is temperature. The second one is pH. So here's the conclusion of enzymes. Enzymes, they have they work on specific substrate. They have specificity, very specific. So enzyme digest carbohydrates, only digest carbohydrates. And enzyme digest protein, only digest proteins. And enzymes lower their activity energy of the reaction. So we say it decreases the energy required for the chemical process to happen. So in your body, you have a lot of digestive enzymes help you to digest the food. And enzymes, the way it works is it brings substance closer together so it can help to break down the bond. And substrate bind with enzymes at its active site. So each enzyme have the active site, and that's why they're specific. An enzyme can be reused, can be used many times. So we use the bile as an example. Bile being stored in gallbladder is help to digest lipid, but it can reuse. So just store in gallbladder because enzyme can be reused. Okay, so the last part of the lecture, let's look at energy, work. Your organs need to work, movement or change of the physical structure is called work. And for the heart and also for your muscle, for all the for all the organs in your body to work, cells in your body to work, they need energy. And the energy source for your living cell is called ATP. ATP. So this is the structure of ATP. It's called TP, means triphosphate. They have 3 phosphate group. We'll talk about this functional group later. And ATP is required for every response in your body because every living cell need to ATP. So this is the mitosis response. We'll talk about this in detail. They have different phases. So these DNAs condense together, become chromosome. And these are the chromosomes. They line up in the center and they divide to 2 parts. So eventually you have 2 nucleus. There with chromosomes inside. And this take ATP. And every living cell in your body require ATP. So if you don't have ATP, your cells won't work. Then how to produce ATP? There are different ways to produce ATP. And when we will have a one lecture specific talk about how to produce ATP. So one way to produce ATP is to turn the use glucose, use glucose. That's why we eat. We eat carbohydrate. Sometimes we call it carb. And carbohydrates, you eat spaghetti, you eat rice, you eat bread. Your digestive system will cut them into glucose. And glucose is the simple sugar. And then we can use the simple sugar. Living cell can use the simple sugar to produce ATP. And there are several processes. We will talk about those processes. And the first process is turn the glucose at the phosphate group, turn it to G6P, another molecule. And this process, you see, require ATP. You require ATP. So ATP is required for every living cell to function. And ATP is called adenosine triphosphate. This A means adenosine. Adenine, this is adenine. This is one of the structure in the ATP. And this is a sugar called ribose. We'll talk about the detail of the structure and 3-phosphate group. So this ATP. And how it produce energy. Remember we talk about the bond, right? Every time you see the dashed line, that's the covalent bond. So every time you break the covalent bond, energy is released. So you have 3-phosphate group here. And when you break the covalent bond, and now this phosphate group is released. And then the energy can be used by your living cell. And now this molecule only have 2 phosphate. So it's not TP, it's D, diphosphate, ADP. So ADP is a low energy molecule. Like every time you exercise, then after you work out, your muscle have a lot of ADP. That's the low energy molecule. And when you are resting, so when you're resting, your muscle is not doing nothing. And when you're resting, your muscle gonna work hard. You turn the ADP back into ATP. There's a high energy molecule. So the next time you can exercise. So ATP is the energy molecule used by living cell. Okay, let's stop here.